Welcome to Dark News.
Dark News.
Dark News. Oh, shit.
They'll never know what it means to have a private moment to themselves.
BBC posted their first article about Silk Road and Tor. Oh, I don't have to go to the street corner and get shot?
I think Bitcoin means 1,000 Silk Roads.
This is a show about cryptocurrencies,
anonymity,
and uncensorship.
All right, so we are live today for June 3rd, 2014. Sorry for the slightly late start that we had today. I did decide to add in a couple little stories here at the last moment that I thought were important, so that's why we're just running a few minutes behind schedule, but really appreciate that you are watching in live today. And of course, if you have any questions that you'd like to have answered towards the end of the episode, feel free to tweet at Dark News Show on Twitter and using hashtag Dark News. You can find Dark News at darknews.tv, and we are syndicated on the World Crypto Network, which is a quite excellent network of crypto-related shows. And all of the funding that comes in for the show doesn't come in through YouTube ads or sponsors or anything like that. It's 100% supported by the viewers right now. So if you would like to support this show, feel free to send a crypto tip or a Patreon subscription to the show, and absolutely hugely appreciate your support. So we'll be talking about some different cryptocurrency items in the news. We'll be talking a little bit about dark markets as well. And but let's get started by taking a look at some of the dark market prices for June 3rd. So these are our prices for June 3rd. Gold and silver both lost about 1% relative to the dollar this past week, and so that brings the market cap for gold, silver, and various cryptocurrencies that we're tracking down about 1 to 2% since last week. Bitcoin, on the other hand, is doing quite well, so this is pretty exciting. The dollar lost 13% relative to Bitcoin this week. You can now only purchase 1.5 milbits for every US dollar. And I think this might be the first time on the show since Bitcoin has been in the green, so to speak, relative to the dollar. The dollar has now lost 1.3% relative to Bitcoin since we first started tracking on the show. And so, of course, that's very good news for Bitcoin speculators and buyers and so forth. Darkcoin has continued its meteoric rise in price since last week. Last week, you could buy 0.1 Darkcoins with every US dollar. Now it's 0.07 Darkcoins. That's about a 30% drop for the dollar relative to Darkcoin, and the dollar has lost 93% of its value, about 94% of its value almost, since we first started tracking on Dark News. So, of course, Darkcoin has been a big success for altcoin speculators as of late. And Darkcoin is sitting at number 4 in the cryptocurrency rankings, as it was last week. It's been oscillating between number 3 and number 4, and that's up 10 places since we first started tracking it. Anoncoin had a bit of a slump this week. It lost 41% of its value. It's still up about 32% since we first started tracking it, but Anoncoin is on sale right now. I can't quite figure out exactly why this is. It's still being mined, and I just haven't seen much chatter about it at all on Twitter. And so you kind of have to look hard to figure out exactly what's going on with Anoncoin. But if I had to guess, I would say that it may have to do with some skepticism that people have about Anoncoin's ability and punctuality in incorporating zero coin or zero cash into their coin. And so people are starting to lose some faith that is definitely going to happen, and they may also be concerned that the Zero Cash project will be launching their own alt currency, in which case it will be directly competing with that altcoin as well. As a result of this slump, Anoncoin lost 2 rankings since last week. Fedora Coin also had a poor week, dropping about 33% relative to the dollar. And it actually gained 1 place in its ranking, but not a very good week for its price. It's oscillating quite a bit, and the oscillation in Fedora Coin and some of these smaller coins really emphasizes how much volatility and how much change there is from day to day, from week to week in some of these smaller altcoins. They're great markets for people that really know how to day trade. I think that it involves some amount of market manipulation, so there may be some collaboration with other market movers in that regard. And I think that these people are also closely tracking the news and the sentiment about these different coins. And I could even imagine perhaps people coming up with bots that are automatically trading based on particular elements, such as market sentiment. You can sort of scrape different web pages and Google searches and all kinds of stuff to kind of figure out how people are feeling about these coins. And I can imagine someone automatically trading with a robot successfully in and out of some of these currencies, because they change so widely. So if you do guess in the right direction, you get a huge gain. Of course, it works in the opposite direction as well. But so that's it for Fedora Coin. Now, I did add another cryptocurrency to this price tracking. I'll be adding yet another one next week, I believe. So the first one is Monero. This is one of the Cryptonote currencies, and we'll talk about it in just a moment. The dollar lost about 6% relative to Monero just in the last day. I just started tracking it yesterday. So you can purchase a 0.44 Moneros or Monero coins, whatever you want to call it, with each US dollar. And Monero is not ranked on the particular cryptocurrency market cap ranking website that I track. And so I can't say exactly what its rank is in a fair way that's relative to the rest of these cryptocurrencies. But if you were to insert it into that list, it would be currently ranked at number 20. I think the market cap is somewhere in the ballpark of 2 point something million, I want to say. And I'm adding Monero and next week Bitcoin, because these are both Cryptonote technologies. I think that the market is going to start responding to some of this Cryptonote stuff more and more, and they finally have some websites that allow you to better track what's the number of units in circulation and etc., and some different exchanges that are carrying them. And I'm using the Poloniex price for both Monero and Bitcoin. Let's see, the dollar lost about 20% relative to 22 rounds. Not much of a change for 9mm. We still haven't seen any major changes in the amber prices yet, but with any kind of dramatic change in the US economy, we certainly will see that in the future. So that's going to be it for the dark market prices. Now, I wanted to talk just briefly about why am I adding Bitcoin and Monero, or BitMonero, or Monero coin, as it's variously referred to. So this is a reminder. We showed this little table here a few weeks ago talking about the different instantiations of Cryptonote, the Cryptonote technology. And we have Bitcoin, we have Monero, we have Phantom Coin, and Quasar Coin. All of these use the Cryptonote technology, and they tweak various little things. I think Bitcoin was basically the first one to come out. Monero came out shortly after that due to some kind of disagreement with developers of Bitcoin. So it kind of forked off from there. The first thing that I noticed that's different about Bitcoin and Monero is that they do have much different scales in terms of their units. So like Bitcoin has lots and lots of coins out there, and each one is worth only a few satoshis, whereas BitMonero only has a few million coins, which is more similar to Bitcoin or Darkcoin in that regard. And so they've moved the units of measurement back into the pack, so to speak. Not a hugely important thing, but something that I kind of pay attention to when I'm looking at the differences between these different coins and seeing if they have a different attitudinal difference in terms of inflation and so forth. So Bitcoin and Monero seem to be the two major Cryptonote currencies at the moment. I don't know too much about Phantom Coin or Quasar Coin. It says here that Phantom Coin is merge mined with all of the other Cryptonote based coins, so that could give it some type of advantage in the future potentially. And Quasar Coin says it has a flatter emission curve, and that was also something that was claimed by BitMonero, so I don't really know too much about Quasar Coin. But I think these other two are listed below Bitcoin and Monero for a reason. Now, Bitcoin actually has a larger market cap than Monero, so that's why we'll be adding it next week as well. And I think that I don't know whether Bitcoin or Monero will be the big Cryptonote currency. I think it will be one or the either, and not both of them probably. And right now, in terms of market cap, Bitcoin is winning out. So now, all of these different Cryptonote currencies use a new proof of work algorithm for mining called Cryptonight. So I just wanted to go over that briefly just to give people an idea of where they're coming at from that perspective. I care a lot less about the mining algorithms than some of these other features because I don't think they're as relevant. The idea basically for Cryptonight was supposed to be, it was pretty, supposed to be CPU only for mining. They're trying to make it so that it's difficult to come up with other kinds of processors, including GPUs and FPGAs, etc., that would have a huge advantage in terms of mining. And so Cryptonight relies on random access to slow memory and emphasizes latency dependence. Each new block depends on the previous block, unlike Script, for example. And the algorithm requires about 2 megabytes per instance. It fits in the L3 cache of modern processors. A megabyte of internal memory is almost unacceptable for modern ASICs. So they're basically just saying, like, look, it uses so much memory. It's so memory hard in terms of what resources it consumes that it would be difficult for ASICs to get into this. GPUs can run hundreds of concurrent instances, but they're limited in other ways. So the GDDR5 memory, which I guess is characteristic of GPUs, is slower than the CPU L3 cache and not very good at random access speed, which you need for a Cryptonight apparently. Yeah, so just the general idea here is that they are trying to make it very memory intensive and trying to make it use resources that are not strong points of GPUs or FPGAs or ASIC mining equipment. And so the CPU is supposed to be well suited to take on this task. And of course, lots of people have CPUs. If you have a computer, you have the CPU. I have read in many places that it's actually difficult or not very safe to mine with a laptop. So that is one limitation in terms of CPU proliferation because they get so hot, and laptops are generally not very good at getting rid of heat. They have such a small form factor. Everything's kind of crammed in there. So laptops, they can mine. They'll just, you'll wear out the machinery inside of the laptop quicker if you're using it for mining. But of course, many more people have, tower computers, computers that are capable of, getting rid of their heat pretty well. And many more people have that type of machine than have great GPUs or ASIC miners, etc. So I don't know if that's necessarily a good thing. To me, it really just drives things more toward botnets, but who knows? And of course, there's various actors that we're suspicious of who have access to a lot of CPUs. For example, governments and nation states tend to have good access to supercomputers. Lots of corporations have good access to supercomputers. And so putting it into the CPU realm, not necessarily the safest choice, but open to debate. I'd love to see some more debate on this particular topic with some good hard facts. I think that would be quite interesting. So that's Cryptonote. So let's take a look at how some of these cryptocurrencies are doing relative to each other. So we're just looking at 4 here on this graph. This is just for the last 5 days. So this is May 29th through today. And we can see that Bitcoin, Anoncoin, Fedora coin, all there towards the bottom, and pretty flat in the last several days compared to Darkcoin, which has gone all the way up from about $10 per Darkcoin to above 14. So a lot more movement in Darkcoin than in some of these other cryptos. This graph is also somewhat skewed by the fact that Darkcoin is now operating at kind of a factor of 10 larger than the way that I have these other coins set up. So I'll adjust that for next week, and we'll get a more clear picture from this graph of exactly what's going on in terms of percentage changes. I mean, if we go back to this market list, we see that, Bitcoin had a healthy, 13% gain in the last week. It's less than Darkcoin. It's less of a change than Anon coin and Fedora coin, but it's still, not in a totally different ballpark. And if we zoom out a little bit, here's all of our historical data since we've been tracking this stuff on the show. And again, you can see kind of the most movement has been in Darkcoin, with a little bit more movement in Anon coin than some of these other coins, because the market's really not sure yet what exactly is going to happen with Anon coin. And both of these graphs are in terms of dollar prices for those currencies. Now, I wanted to take a look again this week at what's going on in the top 10 or so altcoins below Litecoin. Litecoin's still significantly above these other these other cryptocurrencies. I calculated the stats the other day. If you take the top 99 altcoins, including Litecoin, and you add up their market capitalization, they still are only about 8% of Bitcoin's market capitalization. And Litecoin is still larger than the next 22 or 23 altcoins below it in terms of market cap. So, any challenger to Litecoin still has quite a way to go in order to get there. But if we look at what's going on just below Litecoin, I think it's interesting to look at some of these altcoins because it gives us a reflection of what types of technologies people are interested in, and what are the qualities of cryptocurrencies that people are interested in. So with Dogecoin, primarily, it seems to be about, it's a fun Doge meme, and there's a fun community and supporting various projects and so forth. And then most of these other cryptocurrencies, they have some significant technological tweak that they've made to Bitcoin to differentiate themselves. And so I think their price valuations partially reflect how people are thinking about these different technological differences at any given point in time. It's not a perfect picture, of course, because speculators are meddling in the market as well, but I think it gives us some idea for sure. We've certainly seen that with Darkcoin over the last several weeks, where people are really getting this idea of privacy. They're seeing some of the weaknesses in Bitcoin. They're seeing some of the lack of movement in the Bitcoin space in terms of privacy technology advancements. And so Darkcoin has sort of captured the fascination of people. And relatedly, there's this new, relatively new cryptocurrency called XC or X11 coin. It's actually at number 10 right now in these market cap rankings. It's just snuck up there, and they're taking another approach. It's another privacy centric coin. They're taking another approach to achieving this kind of privacy, this protection of the blockchain, a protection of people's privacy when using cryptocurrencies. I'm a little bit skeptical about what I've seen so far. They haven't released very good details about exactly how they hope to achieve that, and for me to look at their code in order to try and figure it out, that's a multi-hour investment on my part. And then, of course, anything that I point out that could be wrong with their code, they can always say, oh, well, we're going to change that tomorrow. So I tend not to invest very much in trying to do their work for them in terms of making it clear exactly what they're planning to accomplish in privacy. But I'm skeptical. I'm skeptical about X11 coin so far. I'm certainly would not recommend speculating on X11 coin right now. That's not a mark against it. It's just that I'm not recommending it. But it has been rising in the ranks a bit recently. So right now, the last few days, the story for the last week or two has been that Next and Darkcoin have been battling it out for the third spot underneath Litecoin. And I think we might continue to see that for a little while. Next, of course, is focused on decentralized exchanges and taking a fairly different approach from Bitcoin to cryptocurrencies. Still blockchain based, of course, which makes it a cryptocurrency. They do have some significant differences in the way that they approach it, completely different code base, etc. Darkcoin, of course, is forked off from Bitcoin or Litecoin, and in many ways is similar to Bitcoin, but it has this privacy approach. What else do we have going on in this list? Purecoin seems to be sliding a bit. Ripple not doing too hot, hasn't been able to recover since one of the lead developers said he was going to be dumping his coins. Mostly lateral movement for Namecoin and Blackcoin, and same story for BitShares, PTS, Made Safe, etc. Mastercoin in a little bit of a slump as well. So really right now I'm paying attention to Next and Darkcoin in terms of taking that number 3 spot. So now that we've gone over some of the crypto prices, I wanted to talk a little bit about Darkcoin and some of the criticisms and some of the issues that they've come up with in the very recent future. This is not necessarily a strong predictor of what's going to happen in the future with Darkcoin prices, but I know there's a lot of people that watch the show who have invested in Darkcoin, so I think this is important stuff to keep track of. So in the last week, there was a white paper that was released talking about some of the limitations of Coinjoin, and they were looking at the way that DarkSend approaches Coinjoin in particular, where they kind of they have a series of Coinjoin transactions breaking the coins into smaller and smaller denominations, and the end result of this is that the amounts are kind of broken out and they get branched out. So let's say in this little white paper, they had an example where someone started out with 110 Darkcoin, and then it was branched off into 10 and then 100 Darkcoin. So a pool of a bunch of people with 10, a pool of a bunch of people with 100, and kind of branched out from there. And then if someone paid later on, a merchant, it's possible that these amounts would get combined later in the tree, and when that combination takes place, then you are undoing a lot of the anonymity that you gained by breaking these denominations into smaller pools for Coinjoin. So this was looking at some of the limitations of Coinjoin and DarkSend's approach to that in particular. Now, the developer of Darkcoin has been talking about how he's going to kind of improve on this technology in the future. With the dark wallet folks in Bitcoin, their approach is they're doing Coinjoin as best as they possibly can, and they're also doing stealth addresses. And the combination of the two, they're somewhat complementary. It's not a perfect solution, but in some respects they're complementary. So Darkcoin, on the other hand, they're not talking about doing stealth addresses. What they're talking about is they've been talking about ring signatures. Now, Ian Myers, he is one of the lead people working on the zero cash technology. He was also working on Zerocoin as well. And he's been having a bit of interaction with some of the Darkcoin folks on Twitter, and has had some criticisms about Darkcoin and the limitations of their privacy technology, comparing it to what zero cash can accomplish. So really the ones that I wanted to call, these tweets that I wanted to call your attention to, this one here from May 22nd, he said it's two of three in his conversation with Darkcoin. He said, with ring signatures, the transaction size is linear, related to the amount of noise that you hide in. That's a large limit to anonymity. So basically what he's saying is that we talked about ring signatures before on the show, the idea being that you have a ring of other cryptocurrency users. You all share public keys with each other, and then when you sign off your transactions, you use this ring signature so that people can't tell which person in the ring signed off on it. Now, what Ian Myers is saying, and I can't confirm this yet because I haven't looked into the math of this enough quite yet, but I'll take his word for him at the moment. He's a great cryptographer. So what he's saying is the larger that the size of your ring is, the larger the transaction is going to be in terms of the number of bytes that it takes up on the blockchain. And this has always been a significant limitation on privacy technologies in the blockchain, because these transactions necessarily have to be fairly small. If they get large, then most people will not be able to keep up with the blockchain, or you won't be able to do very many transactions per second with the blockchain, because it's just going to exceed many people's bandwidth requirements. So that's a real problem for these private transactions. And that's one of the changes they made between Zero Cash and from Zerocoin to Zero Cash, is they improved on the size of their transactions while not reducing the amount of anonymity. In fact, they improved a bit on the anonymity between Darkcoin and Zerocoin and Zero Cash. So he's saying, well, if you're going to use this ring signature approach, then the more anonymity you want, the larger the transaction sizes are going to have to be. And so it's going to be you're going to be competing with people's bandwidth requirements and the amount of anonymity that you can get out of the system. Whereas with Zero Cash, you can basically blend yourself in with all of the people that use Zero Cash, and the transactions have a fixed size to them. They don't get bigger the more people that participate in Zero Cash. So that's a real possible advantage of Zero Cash. And I think it does reflect the maturity of the technology that's gone into Zero Cash, as opposed to something like Darkcoin, where Darkcoin was this one guy. He's not he's not a someone with a huge background in cryptography necessarily. And he was just working on this on his own for a while. Whereas like the Zerocoin, Zero Cash people, you have a whole team of people. They're all cryptographers. They will all work on this stuff pretty much full time. They have a huge amount of training and experience in this area. They have published papers and gotten feedback on the papers, and taking kind of a rigorous approach to this stuff that you can get through the academic channels. It does mean that it's taking them much longer to get it going, and we're still seeing another 2 to 5 or 6 months in terms of the launch of any kind of Zero Cash cryptocurrency. But it does mean that their technology is a bit more mature and thought out in some ways, whereas the Darkcoin folks is kind of like, okay, well, we know we need to improve on it, and but we're not exactly sure how we're going to do that yet. So the Darkcoin folks responded that they're not going to do ring signatures. In fact, they had previously said that this was going to be one of the ways that they were improving on ring signatures, but they've kind of dropped to that apparently from now as of May 22nd. So that is a piece of notable news, because we still need to learn exactly how Darkcoin is going to improve their DarkSend technology. They are planning to put something out in somewhere between mid-June and July, and we don't know quite what that is yet. So that's quite important. And it also means that if they're not going to be doing ring signatures, then they're not directly competing with some of the Cryptonote cryptocurrencies as well. So that means perhaps more room for growth in terms of Cryptonote. But do take note of what Ian has said here, which is, look, this ring signature technology, it seems to be quite limited from his perspective in terms of how much anonymity you can squeeze out of the system. So we will see how that plays out. Now, this was a good article from CoinSource, Tom at CoinSource, talking about what's been going on from Darkcoin. So I just wanted to kind of review that briefly. So they're showing this graph here of Darkcoin in dollar terms, and their market cap and price, and somewhere in the range of May 25th through the 29th, perhaps, there was a bit of a dip, and this was related to some random forking that was happening. There were certain nodes in the Darkcoin network that started forking, getting on the wrong version of their blockchain, basically, as a result of some changes that they pushed out related to master nodes. And so they did an emergency hard fork and reverted some updates to Darkcoin that appeared to be the source of the problems. Now, initially, they were thinking that the dev team was randomly forking was either caused by a problem with the newly introduced masternode payment system or an intentional attack on the network. They did some testnet testing, and they figured out that it was due to the masternode payment system, that in rare situations, but often enough that it was causing problems, the votes for masternode payments appeared to clients to be manipulated, and therefore the clients were rejecting the block from those masternodes. The payments that go to masternodes are a way of incentivizing operation of the masternodes. The masternodes basically will orchestrate the Coinjoin based mixing that takes place, and that's how you get privacy in Darkcoin with DarkSend. The way that you figure out which masternode is going to get to orchestrate a certain DarkSend transaction, it's randomly selected. There's a random voting process that elects a particular masternode, and so that's how a masternode gets picked and how they get paid. So in order to have a masternode, you need to have 1,000 Darkcoin, which we've talked about before in the past. And of course, you need to have the technical capabilities to run a secure server so that your Darkcoins don't get stolen and you don't get DDoSed and all that good stuff. So I get about 20% of the block reward for a masternode operator. And let's see, so as of yesterday, what was yesterday relative to? So this was posted on the 31st, which was Saturday. So Friday, Darkcoin developers announced that they were going to be releasing candidates 3 and 4. 3 will be fixing the forking issue and allow for the reintroduction of masternode payments, which they've temporarily disabled, and also introduce automatic checkpointing. I don't exactly understand how this checkpointing works, but it's supposed to prevent forks from happening in Darkcoin network. And then release candidate 4 is supposed to be building on and improving on some of the privacy that they have going on. Yeah, so release candidate 3 should be sometime mid-June. In the meantime, they're working on some other elements of the Darkcoin community, right? So they have kind of like 2 programmers right now, and they're looking for ways to get other developers involved. Of course, whenever you try to bring more developers on, you get into this mythical man month kind of issue. The mythical man month was this book that was written by a software engineer years and years ago. I had to study this book when I was an undergraduate in computer science. And basically the idea is there's this myth, or there was this pervasive myth at the time, that if you have a project of software development and you need to get it done faster than it's going to happen right now, you just add more developers to it. And there's this, the idea was that there is this atomic unit of the programmer man month. Like a programmer accomplishes this much work in a month, and so if you add more programmers into it, then you're getting more man months out of the project, and you can get it done in a faster period of time. But actually what happens is each time you add a new person to the project, you have to integrate them into the project. You have to get them up to speed. You have to get them kind of flowing with the other programmers, how they're going to communicate, how they're going to merge changes, how they're going to review code, style considerations in terms of how you document and write your code. And so actually for some period of time, you actually get slowed down introducing someone new to a project. And so that's definitely an important consideration for any of these cryptocurrencies looking to add developers on, is that they don't immediately speed up your project. So that can be a bit of a choke point. And the other thing that they were talking about in this article from CryptoSource is that they're also looking to develop professional public relations and marketing strategy to spread accurate information about Darkcoin.